Our speaker of the day is Lieutenant General Dushyant Singh, Param Vishishta Seva Medal, Ati Vishishta Seva Medal. The General Officer was commissioned in Maratha Light Infantry during December 1981. His command assignments included command of a battalion, a brigade, a division, and a corps. He also has been a directing staff at the College of Defense Management, Inspector General of National Security Guard, and the Chief of Staff of a command headquarters. And finally, when he reached the pinnacle of his career, he was the commandant of the Army War College, Mao. Post-retirement, he is a professor emeritus of Rashtriya Raksha University, a visiting faculty for a number of institutions. He is a prolific writer who contributes regularly on issues related to the national security. He also happens to be vice chairman of our institution. Today, he will be speaking on Indo-Nepalese relations, an Indian perspective. Over to General Dushyant.
Thank you, sir. At the outset, I wish to thank the chairman Strive for having given me this opportunity to speak very, very relevant topic to Nepal relations, the Indian perspective. Being part of the team Strive, I also wish to welcome our guests from Nepal and our distinguished participants who have joined us on the WebEx and Facebook platform of Strive India, this webinar. Someone has very beautifully defined a neighbor's definition. Neighbor is not just one with whom there is sharing of borders, but also one with whom our heart stays connected. Indo-Nepal relations enjoys a very special status in India. It goes beyond diplomacy. I dare say ours is akin to a family relation. Concerns over which our points of view, but we have had a history of this, in my view, seems to be the high point or the basic defining factor in the relation between Nepal. I shall cover my talk in these four major headings: historical bonding, which has been more or less covered by our acting chairman, Chaturvedi. Geostrategic importance, a brief word on that. My major focus will be on the Indian concerns and some broad steps to strengthen the relations, because we will also have General Chauhan speaking on issues for strengthen our relations. Has my slide gone, I think?
Your slide has gone.
Bonding is concerned, I think it dates back to the Vedic period. Ramayana. In fact, characterize our relations. Majority people in both countries share the same religion, language, and food. Many say we are two bodies, one soul. I have gone beyond the phrase which the chairman used. People enjoy free movement across borders. Over 6 lakh Indians live in Nepal and 80 lakh Nepalese in India. People of Nepal enjoy equal work opportunity at par with any Indian citizen. Have the right to job if we, in fact, identify by the phrase roti Maharashtra. Economically, too, India, as covered by the chair, is the largest trading partner of Nepal. Bilateral trade in 2018-19 was to the tune of 8.27 billion US dollars, and the Indian export to Nepal was about 7.76 billion. But the foundation of our relations, in my view, is the 1950 Treaty of Indo-Nepal Treaty of Peace and Friendship, which is coming under scrutiny. India appreciates the reservation of this treaty. I shall in a little more detail later, because this apparently is one of the major reasons for the differences between India and Nepal. But the strongest bond, in my view, is that of the Indian Army. And about this, General Chauhan will be speaking in a much greater detail, so I will not dwell much on it. I will not steal the thunder from who is the right man for doing this particular job. A brief word about the geostrategic reality of Nepal. This image actually reflects what is the geostrategic reality of Nepal. It is sandwiched between two major countries, India and uh, historically India and ties dating back to the sorry. Geostrategically, Nepal enjoys a unique position by India and in one direction by China. Some people also refer to this as India being locked by. I won't say that India has that much more possibilities of developing and building our relations with Nepal. However, the relations started getting a little astray when Tibet was annexed by China in 1951, and it came to a head with Dalai Lama fleeing to India in 1959. Nepal has about 1,415 kilometers of closed borders with limited connectivity with China. However, of late, China has been trying to develop the connectivity to Nepal rapidly, which includes between Lhasa and Kathmandu. On the other, we have 1,751 kilometers of open free border with everyone free to move visa-less between India and Nepal. As far as China is concerned, it provides a unique position to China in South Asia, which also throws up the possibility of security threat to India. In fact, this I would say is the reason behind most of our reservations which emanate between India and Nepal. Uh, Going straight, since we have a very limited time, to the differences, and I have mentioned in the form of three Ds: desires, dissensions, and three words capture the current issues which are going on between India and Nepal. First is the over the zone of peace proposal of Nepal in the late 80s. It was, in fact, I would say, the beginning of soreness of our relations. Then came the 1950 Treaty of Peace and Friendship, which has been a major point of difference between India and Nepal. For example, it calls for the two countries to inform each other in the event of any serious friction or misunderstanding with any neighboring state, which is likely to cause any breach in the friendly relations between the two governments. Similarly, the treaty talks of defense, including import of arms, ammunition, either from or through the territory. See the reservation which Nepal had. Uh, person's group was said that the treaty does require. And I think the mere recognition by both the sides that is a step forward. However, nothing further has developed as far as this particular aspect is concerned. Maybe once the COVID pandemic gets over, we should see some forward movement on this treaty being revised amicably between the two countries. India also feels that Nepal has been playing China card against India, secure favor for itself. How far it is true, I think our friends will Nepal will be on this. But this is the perception which at least in the Indian side is there. Similarly, differences have occurred over the
Yeah. Hello, Dushyant. Hello, Dushyant. Dushyant, are you there?
hello.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, my power has gone. I have shifted to mobile, so I'll
Okay.
be taking a little break. Nevertheless, I think can you all see my slides?
Yes, I can see your slides.
Differences have occurred over the economic issues which led actually to a 13 months blockade way back in 1990, which brought the growth of the economy of Nepal to a standstill. I must share that at the time when the economic blockade in the 90s took place, Nepal's economy was growing at a rate of 9.7%, and it was galloping to be one of the richest countries in the world. Because of this 13-month blockade, the Nepalese economy went down to 1.5% growth rate, and actually it started being counted amongst the poorest. I think we need to reflect somewhere that certain steps Nepal, and I think we need to make amends. And fortunately for all of us, the government of the day is trying to make amends towards that. Then the issue of rise of the communist parties and their distinct tilt towards China has been one of the concerns, especially in the last few years. Uh, Nepal has been seen as moving closer to China and away from India, and which has been a major cause of concern as far as India is concerned, because its security is deeply tied with Nepal. Then recently, during the last crisis, before that, then also in 2008, the anti-China voices of the Tibetans who were residing in Nepal were brutally crushed by Nepalese security forces, which was again a cause of, as far as it is concerned, and it was a irritant between the Indo-Nepal relations. Actually, in 2014, with the change in government, I think a hope came about when Prime Minister Modi visited Nepal after a gap of almost 17 years. The first Prime Minister to this itself, I think, started the process of revival with the government of India, in fact, opening a US $1 billion line of credit, signing of a hydropower project worth $1 billion, 250 million earmarked for other projects. But I think very shortly this Bonhami got disturbed over the controversy of Buddhism, where Buddha was born, etc. That, in my view, was a very unnecessary controversy. It was created by both. I would blame both the countries for this, but luckily it did not uh, do much damage. But what really affected was the 2015 blockade over the Madheshi Janjatis and the Tharu issues. Again, this blockade actually hurt Nepal, leading to a humanitarian crisis, uh, thanks to some steps taken by the Nepalese government, for amending the constitution, this particular crisis has blown over, and hopefully we should see a revival of the Indo-Nepal relations. There were issues like India wanted two separate provinces running over almost 800 kilometers with the depth being just about 30 to 50 kilometers. Now, this was something which was uh, totally unacceptable to Nepal. Hopefully, these issues will be quietly discussed, uh, debated between the two countries, and amicable solution found. Uh, but once again, in the year 2020, the Kala Pani dispute was raised. This actually started off when Raksha Mantri inaugurated the APCM trade route to Dipu Lake, which is not only a trade route but also a very short distance to Mansarovar, to Mount, which is our one of the pilgrimage spots as far as India is concerned, and so for Nepal also. In fact, it's a mutually benefiting proposal. The dispute, of course, has a different connotation altogether. The matters came to a head with the issue of an amended map which showed the area right up to Limpua in Nepalese territory. India claims that up to Lipu Lake, the entire area is in the Indian territory. Uh, the rules for claiming these are originated in the document of Sugauli, where they have just mentioned Kali River as the boundary, but subsequently, as you all know, that all rivers, mountain rivers, start with number of streams joining together and then forming a river. The international rule for that, and I'm about it, that the international rule for identifying as to which is the mainstream are based on two factors. First is the longest stream, and the second is the volume of water which is flowing in that particular stream. Now, if you go by this definition, definitely Limpiodhura tributary should be considered as the main Kali River distributary. So, if that be the case, then the entire area would fall under Nepal. But there was a map which was again produced in 1870 by the British India, in which Lipu Lake was shown as the boundary, and also the fact that last 200 odd years, the whole area has been either occupied by British India troops or subsequently by Indian troops. We still have a post in Lake, which is the only post left after there were actually 21, 23 posts, from which 22 have been withdrawn, and only one post now lies the border of India and Nepal, and which is in this particular area. Similarly, the revenue documents show this to be part of India, so therefore there is a competing claim, and I think the Joint Commission, which was made for this particular issue to be resolved, also left it vague because it did not actually cover this part of the disputed area while demarcating the boundary. I think it needs a little more attention, a little more deeper consideration, maybe an agreement where the security concerns of India are allayed would be the right way to go, and for both have to come forward halfway. Just to show you all, this is the map which shows this particular area. You can see actually which has now come in is that in 1960, China and Nepal undertook a agreement in which the boundary between China and Nepal has been shown in the area of Tinker. Now, this would actually further complicate the matters because then it becomes a tri-party dispute between India, China, and Nepal. Therefore, uh, if we have to resolve this issue, we know how disputes are resolved with China. Till today, we have not been able to resolve a single point of contention as far as our northern borders are concerned. The issue can get really complicated. For minor mercies, Chinese Foreign Affairs have given a statement saying that the boundary in this area is a bilateral matter between Nepal and India. So therefore, they are not really going to interfere into it. But knowing the history of China, For example, it has disregarded the various international agreements which we have had with China over the boundary issue, as also the boundary with Tajikistan, which they have violated at will after having properly demarcated it. So we are not very sure whether the Chinese position is going to be permanent or temporary in this particular area. We wish that it is a permanent position and that India and Nepal resolve the boundary issue amicably. With this, some other issues which have been a cause of concern have been the Nepal support to the One China policy. Although India has also not openly disagreed with this One China policy, but in actual, I think India is not really supporting of the One China policy.
You're just 5 more minutes. Please conclude.
I'm just about to finish. Then we have the increasing Chinese military to military engagements. Social media hashtags like Go Back India, Back of India during Ladakh have also been a cause of concern. The support of the initiative is another area. The Chinese study centers, which are coming up along our borders, have been a problematic issue for Indo-Nepal relations. Water. While we have allocated enough resources, we have not been able to complete our project. That is something which is actually leading to dissatisfaction between the two. Floods in the Kosi region, again, it's an area of dispute between the two countries. With that, I will basically suggest four major suggestions. Firstly, is that I think we need to first of all, not adopt a big brother attitude. Let Nepal resolve its internal political problems itself. This will, in a way, help them resolve their problems themselves and consider India as an equal partner. Further, India's relations with Nepal are defined at three levels: people to people, business to business, and government to government. I think all three levels have to be exploited to ensure that the between India and Nepal strengthen further. As far as economic aid is concerned, the government is already moving into this direction. We have already allocated the second largest foreign aid component to Nepal after Bhutan. Out of the total 7,000 crores which have been earmarked for foreign aid, the second highest is for Nepal, I think around 1,000 crores. In return, I think India only wants that our security concerns should be addressed by Nepal as far as China and Pakistan is concerned, and both the countries must work towards a peaceful South Asia. And in the words of Prime Minister Modi, Nepal needs HIT, which is highways, infoways, transways. India must ensure that we help them achieve this. As far as the cultural issue, the common heritage, Buddha over Yuddha. With our neighborhood first policy, I think India and Nepal will be able to move forward as they have been doing so in the past, overcoming their hurdles which I have just mentioned. And we look for a brighter future of Indo-Nepal relations. With that, I come to the end of my talk. I'm leaving you all with this quotation. You all can read it. It speaks of itself. It has been written by a Nepalese geotechnical coordinator in Vancouver, Naresh Koirala. He has rightly highlighted what are the shortcomings and what are the statements, which actually lead to dissatisfaction. And also he has suggested some solution, which is that the only option Nepal has is to try and resolve the issue through quiet diplomacy, through dialogue and forming Indian public opinion. This requires leadership with a very high moral standing, sensitivity, and an ability to communicate complex issues and with firmness. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I got delayed because of a power cut. I hope I have been able to cover some important issues, and later we will take it.
Thank you, Dushyant. A very, very cogent and comprehensive view of Indian policy. And I think he summed up in the end the best. Buddha versus Yuddha. That should be the approach between India and Nepal. And while onus is on India not to be a big brother, but a partner, also he mentioned that the lingering issues are not so difficult to be addressed. They can be addressed. And I hope and pray that both India and Nepal work in that direction.